Hi, it's Joy, and today I'm going to be watching Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 8, Alloyed. This is the season finale. I am so freaking stressed, but also excited for this episode. I have loved this season. If you're watching this on YouTube, all of the episodes are up unedited on my Patreon. One thing I noticed that when I was editing, like during my reaction last week, I was convinced Isildur survived. I was like, nope, I saw it, the crash, but there was like half the building still standing. Then I was editing, and I looked at it, and I was like, how on earth did I see it that way? There was one wall of the building was still standing, but the entire roof had crushed. Now, I'm still, not going to be shocked should he turn up riding on his horse alive, but he did seem more dead when I was editing, and I did feel bad that I spent the entire episode dismissing anyone's concerns. Your son's fine. Yeah, oops, I think he might be dead. Now, personally, I'm not going to, I probably would have been sadder about that did I not think it was hilarious that I just spent the entire episode convinced that only half the building collapsed and they were all stupid for thinking he was dead. I'm so sorry about that. We'll see what happens next, but I'm not convinced he's gonna like stay dead or actually be dead, but we will see. Let's go. They're coming looking for you. I also hallucinated him behind the dad at one point. Bad guys are looking for you, and nice people are looking for you. But who are these people? They're not good.
Sauron.
It was one of the theories. Is he actually Sauron, or do they just think he's Sauron? Like, why do you think he's Sauron? This is crazy. Is he actually Sauron? Like, I know they literally basically just said he was Sauron, but my brain is still like, I'm only 80% convinced. Like, because these could just be crazy people that saw a sign and they were like, gotta be Sauron. Gotta go find Sauron. And then they got there and it was like, actually, I'm Bob. Crazy, crazy. Hello, elves. I brought a half-dead human. Please save him. Also, I didn't go to the magical lands, and I was right.
Galadriel? What has happened? Shouldn't you be resting?
Yes.
What is this place? This is a peculiar ore. What is it?
Perhaps a different approach.
Have you tried combining it with other ores? Couldn't the right alloy also amplify those qualities?
You think, listen to other people, try different approaches.
Where I came up, pressure. An intriguing suggestion.
Mixing with people with other life experiences can help you learn.
Call it.
I know what you have been doing in the dark of night when you thought all eyes were asleep.
Does he know who he's talking to, or is he having a weird prophecy time?
Miriam.
You're mistaken. I'm
Queen yet? No. I looked for too long. And
it's not your daughter.
What is from what?
I'm just very concerned because obviously her father's going to return and is going to be like, the war was a terrible idea, we should never have gone, your brother's dead. And I worry that they're going to be like, we must isolate, and I think that could be what kills them. Like, we're going to shut ourselves off from everybody else again.
Like to arc back upon itself in one unbroken round, building to a power that is all but...
The Rings of Power, by any chance?
All that power upon the brow of one being? Not just any one being, High King. You.
Sycophants or what?
You should not be standing here at all.
But by the way, she was right. Have you acknowledged that yet?
Time needed.
power over flesh. Where did you hear them?
I was conferring with my smiths, I think.
How, Bran, my dear, don't you have a people that you should go and rule? There is a darkness at work here, Galadriel.
Constraint can be the very progenitor of invention.
Is Halbrand loyal to Sauron?
Speak of this to no
Is that what she's worried about?
All of a sudden, the two of you seem quite familiar.
I'm just offering whatever humble aid I can. Thank you, Galadriel,
For bringing you here,
for saving my life.
as you saved mine. Our scales are balanced.
There are dark forces at work here, and I don't fully know
Enough for me.
who, what, where, when, why to trust them.
I'd all but give it. And I'll see to it that no one else does either.
Oh, I don't like this. I'm stressed. Because that felt sinister. But is it feeling sinister because I've just suddenly got
Do not be afraid.
unfounded, like, suspicion? Or is he actually suspicious?
Master. The lands.
He does seem to be very in line with these people.
Yes. For it trembles when you are wroth. The winds.
Is his early association with Nori gonna, like, temper him a bit?
You are Lord Sauron.
Yeah, he's seeming very Lord Sauron-y to me now.
What is it?
He's not Sauron? That would be so funny. Fuck. That is the third one. Of course she can freaking transform.
Hey! Brandyfoot! Run!
Oh, you brave puppets. That's his friend? He does not want you to hurt his friend? Oh god. Yes! Bless them.
Take it. We need you. Please just take it.
Get away from me. What I am.
Then choose to be better.
You choose. You're here to help. I know it.
Like, do those people know he's Sauron? Or do they just be like, oh, our Lord Sauron would indeed come down from the sky? How does this guy become an Iron Mortal?
It'll only hurt for a moment.
Oh my god. Fuck. This is very Sauron-y music, like, raw.
He is not Sauron. He is the other. He is.
I'm good.
Yay! He's very capable of being terrifying. They are fucking terrifying. But he's good. He's not Sauron, he's the other. Yeah, so they just interpreted the signs and, like all zealots, came out wrong. They thought they were gonna die. How is the dude that got stabbed? He kept his strength to save those he cared for.
I just never imagined it would lead here.
How could you? No one did.
The way of the faithful is committing to pay the price, even if the cost cannot be known.
The right thing is not the easy thing.
Sometimes the cost is dear.
Yep.
We'll see to it that we make the end worth the price.
Come what may.
Okay, I hope he means this, because I was getting worried that he was gonna, like, do that thing of, like, I suffered, therefore I'm gonna completely flip away. Now, obviously, him being very upset, I'll allow him that, as long as he does stay true to his
Come what may.
convictions.
What is it?
Oh, the flag's black.
Do you see?
Is he gonna make a play for power out of all of this? Because I can feel it coming.
Meaning that the metals shouldn't be forced to
Because he
join
is a blacksmith, but is it convenient that he's being so helpful here?
together now.
I don't trust anyone.
Quick.
Because one thing that I have been thinking from the whole beginning, all you had to do was have that little symbol on you and people would be like, it's the king. You could kill the real rightful heir and take it from them. You could have just forged one that looked like it. After all this time, who's going to know the difference? They're very good at making you, like, they made me genuinely convinced that Thingamajig could be Sauron. I was always like they've said he is, but is he? Now they're like they made me like, I doubted how when we first met him, and then they made me like him, and now I'm doubting him again.
You know who I am.
Is he Sauron?
Who you really are. fought beside me.
Against your enemy. And mine.
Fuck.
Tell me your name.
I think we know his name.
I have been awake since before the breaking of the first silence.
Oh god, Azriel. All this time he's been right there, right in front of her. She's been forming a connection with him, although it wasn't really with him, it was with a pretense. Somebody that she would see as a challenge, that she would understand, see as an equal.
So hard.
Can't believe that Sauron was under our noses this whole frickin' time. They did such a good job! Because, like, you were questioning whether Dude McDudeson, he doesn't have a name yet. I'm pretty sure his name may well be Gandalf, but the other, like, I feel like there are multiple wizards, so why would he be the other? Maybe he's someone totally separate that we've never met before. So, Mr. Man with the Harfoots was suspicious, and you were like, oh, who's he going to be? I didn't ever question that Halbrand was going to be Sauron. As this episode went on, I was like, is he working with Sauron? It crossed my mind the whole concept of the proof that he was who he says he was literally like a seal. Like, A, yeah, he's old enough to have had the real one this whole time. But B, like, how long has it been since anyone has seen the real thing? You could fake that very easily. They did such a good job of putting to bed suspicions with him over the course of the episode and the time of making you think, well, he really did want to stay on Numenor. Like, now was that just because Sauron thought, hey, this looks like a cool place to rule? So interesting. And then obviously the guy we were facing off against, the Adar, he was going against what Sauron's plan had been, I think. I don't know. He hasn't actually said he was Sauron, so he may turn around and be like, my name is Bob. I'm evil Bob. I don't know, but this is just brilliant. They did such a good job of letting you be suspicious and then easing those suspicions with time, then making you suspicious, making you look here while the real action's happening here. This whole episode, out of nowhere, this real creeping suspicion of Halbrand came in. And as much as I was confident Galadriel was having the same thing, I was like, am I imagining things? Am I paranoid? Am I reading into her looks and her feelings and the sense that we're getting from this man? We were not wrong.
Galadriel.
Step out of it, stab him, run.
Galadriel. Look at me!
Fuck. You still got that dagger.
And I knew, if ever I was to be forgiven, that I had to heal everything that
Sure.
I had helped with.
I believe
No
you.
penance could ever erase the evil you have done.
You said that whatever I'd done before, I could be free of it
You
now.
deceived me.
I told you the truth.
She thought you'd done some human things inhumane things because you were forced to and to survive. Not that you were like the head of the army alongside
I
him.
told you that. Weighed against our future.
He seems to genuinely believe this. He's definitely trying to manipulate her as well.
The Dark Lord.
No,
Yes.
not dark. Not with you at my side. You told me once.
Is he
We were
disillusional?
brought together for a
Or is he
promise.
just trying to manipulate her? Stab him. Turn him into an eye in the sky.
Safe. Or rule.
Mm-hmm.
I see no difference.
Yep, I was like, does it have to be? Do it!
And that is why
Though this is all in her head, so.
I will never be at your side.
What will they do when you tell them that you are my ally? When you tell them that Sauron lives
Yeah.
because of you!
And you will die because of me!
You'll almost be finished by now.
Galadriel.
Tell him he'll help you while you run. Explain. Run and explain. You can run and explain at the same time.
Galadriel,
Or was that the place that...
where is Halbrand?
There is no
He is gone.
Halbrand.
And I doubt he will return.
Surely
Should
you...
he ever, none of us are to treat with him again.
What happened by that stream?
Tell them who he was. You have to.
The powers we forged today must be for the elves alone. Untouched by other hands.
Also, Halbrand is literally Sauron. Make sure people know this and put his face on a wanted poster.
Wizard.
Yep.
And you belong out there.
She is a wonderful adventurer. Plus, if they always walk the same route, more or less, she can find them again because she knows where they'll be.
I was listening to all of it, Father.
No. She will come home to you. I make this vow now.
Oh, go on. Go on. Go on.
The parting is the hardest part. Yeah, it's very hard to say goodbye, but not saying it is worse.
Are you certain?
More than ever.
I love that he can chat with her now.
Well, they're all waving at you.
Not to mention I haven't an inkling which way to go.
Ah.
Yes. Neither of you know where to go. You have a name for where you wish to go.
Always follow your nose.
This has to be why he has a special connection with hobbits. He has to be who we all think he is. It's like she's saying goodbye to the last piece of him. Someone also needs to send word to the people of the Southlands that he's not their king. If he turns up, he's not your king. Like, it's genuinely concerning me that she hasn't told anyone who he is. And I know that, I mean, the making the ring was very lovely, but I know a part of that is obviously she doesn't necessarily want to admit that she was teaming up with him and that she came to care for her. Well, she didn't actually come to care for him. She came to care for who she thought he was and everything there. It is a messy situation. But people need to know that that's Sauron and that he's running around. Though does she think they wouldn't believe her? Is that not Galadriel? Because twists and turns here. Did he? Now, these are different to obviously the one ring and everything, right? But they're linked. What was the significance of him going and finding it? I'm so confused. Okay, he chilled out. Like, they just really threw me there with the whole, like, him finding the scroll. What is your master plan here? Okay, that was a finale. That was so good. From the beginning when they were like, oh, there's Sauron, and I was like, oh my god, that's Sauron. And, you know, I was like, I'm like, they've said it, they're quite confident, so I'll put it at an 80%, but I was still like, you know, have they just read the signs? And you can read signs and be totally wrong, you know? And that is what they did. The signs were pointing to the opposite of what they thought. I did find it interesting that they refer to him as the other, because if he's Gandalf, obviously we know Gandalf does a lot of stuff very cryptically to lead people to try and thwart Sauron, but there are other wizards. So what is Gandalf referred to as the other in later things, or is this guy not going to be Gandalf? He's going to be some other wizard that like did shenanigans with Sauron here and then dies, or it just goes off and lives in a different part of the world. I don't know. Like, if that is something I'm supposed to know, do let me know, but otherwise I'll figure it out in season 2. I loved how they did that with the twists and turns. And then, as I said during the reaction, the whole thing with Halbrand was when you first meet him, you don't really trust him, you don't really trust him, you don't really trust him. Then it goes on enough that you're kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe I do trust him. I hope he's alive after that battle. Good for him. And then, I suppose, did he conveniently get injured enough that it would take him time to go to the Elven Land, or would he come up with some other excuse to need to go to her with her to the Elven Land? But the fact that Galadriel of all people has been riding side by side, allied to Sauron, to her sworn enemy, the person she could not find peace, that she revealed parts of her soul to him in trying to get to know him and in trying to heal his suffering, are absolutely gut-wrenchingly awful and terrible, and my heart just breaks for her. I was genuinely at the end there when Elrond went and like found the scroll of the like lineage and everything. I was like, oh my god, like, what? It seemed weird to me that Halbrand would be so pro, including Halbrand still, that Sauron would be like, oh, we have to make these rings desperately and then just leave before they were done. But obviously he has a wider plan there. I guess Elrond found the scroll because at some point he's gonna be like, hey, Galadriel, this says Halbrand shouldn't exist. Who is he? And then she'll be like, funny to mention that. He is Sauron. Now, I am a little bit confused with the whole rings and the origin of the rings. Obviously, I know they talk about there being lots of rings at the beginning of the Lord of the Rings, but I don't remember the specific details of it. But I did listen to the lyrics of the song they played through the credits, and it said that there were three rings for the elves, which they have made. There were 7 rings for the dwarves, which they have not made, and there were 9 rings for the humans. Is that a thing that happened? I know there were lots of rings, and then there's the one ring that rules them all. And obviously, I know that like the ring that Frodo and everything is the one ring. I did know that much. I wasn't sure where initially. I wasn't sure if they were going to be crafting the ring that would become the one ring here. But then they put the jewels into it, and it became quite clear that they're making different ones. I do know that Galadriel has a ring. I believe when she shows up in the movies, I'm now like, whenever I say something like that with confidence, I'm convinced I'm going to be misremembering. Like I said, I watched the movies. I actually enjoyed them, but like brain fog is real with chronic fatigue syndrome, and sometimes just apparently doubting yourself is real with anxiety. So that song would suggest that at some point the dwarves are going to mine more of the mithril and make themselves 7 rings, and then the humans are also going to get 9 rings, and that Sauron is going to get his hands on some to make himself the one ring. I guess through the story of this show, are we going to find out how the ring ended up in the river? Look, okay, I love him. Gollum, I loved him. I was rooting for Gollum throughout a decent chunk of that movie, I can't lie. Not seriously, but I was also like, it's not his fault. Let him have the ring. I was very distressed when he fell into the lava. But is that going to be how the ring ends up? Are we going to find out all of that and everything? And obviously how Sauron goes from being a man walking around being all broody to being an eye. I know he wasn't literally an eye in the sky. I'm pretty sure that was like he was stuck in some other plane or something, and that was like how he was viewing things. I think, and that's how I interpreted it when I watched the movies. So they did a very good job with the twists and the turns of keeping us second guessing where Sauron was, what he was up to. You know, at various points in this, they had me wondering, was he already trapped and just the eye was going to appear at some point? Very, very well done with those twists and turns. And I think, you know, I know this show got a lot of criticism. I know a lot of people had very strong feelings about disliking it. Obviously, The Lord of the Rings is a very big, very intense fan base. As nothing wrong with that. There is definitely an element of this show trying to. I don't think there were some people who weren't happy that they were like diversifying a bit, which obviously those people, I'm like, shut up, fuck off, who cares what you think? But I don't think, from my understanding of The Lord of the Rings, they haven't done anything here in this show that would dishonor or disrespect anything that came after it in terms of the plot and anything that came before it in terms of what we've seen. I'm obviously not, I have very much enjoyed this. Like, you know, I watched all of the movies specifically in order to watch this show because years ago I tried watching the first one and I just couldn't get into it. And I did get into them a lot more this time around. I guess I went in with a slightly more open mind. I don't know. But for me, this show was wonderful, and I loved seeing the backstories of like Galadriel and Elrond, and I'm so excited to see where it goes next. It's kind of nice to have a couple of characters that I can be like, I can get attached to Galadriel. She's not gonna die. She's gonna suffer, I'm sure. She's not gonna die. Now I'm like, was she a ghost when she appeared? She did a lot of like appearing out of nowhere, but you know, I'm fairly confident with certain storylines having to get to a certain place. So it's very interesting to see how they get there. And you know, if you're someone who has read every single book, I can understand in that finding issues with this because from what my understanding is, they didn't have access to everything that was written about this time period by Tolkien, but they had access to some aspects of what was written about it, and then they made their own story from there. And so if anything contradicts or doesn't go how you want it to do, that is very difficult. You know, some of my favourite franchises that I grew up with or that I've loved for years, if they come in and they change details of what went before, I wouldn't like that either. So I think there's an element of people disliking this show because they're purists, but in reality they're just bigots. And then there's an element of people disliking this show because it truly went against maybe their preconceived notions of how things were or a different piece of canon that they'd read. But I do truly think if you just gave it a chance, this show built and built and built into something really special. And this finale was the icing on the cake. You know, this finale made me so excited for the next season. The one thing I would say with this show was it wasn't necessarily slow, because it was kind of slow at times, but it was also like a lot happened, if you know what I mean. But like, I'd had to like accustom my brain into the pacing of this show in some ways, into like how the show was doing things. But this season was really the prologue to everything that's going to come next. From Nori and her friend doing their journey to their 3 rings in creation, the dwarves know about the Mithril, Sauron has been revealed, Mordor's been created. You know, so many things that have happened here, that all the unrest on Numenor, that this was really just the setting stones for everything that is going to come next. And it left me so excited for everything that's going to come next. I love this season. My main takeaway right now is why on earth didn't Galadriel have Halbrand's likeness sent to everybody? This man is Sauron. If you see him, kill him. You know, if you see him, like, oh, hi, sir, nice to meet you. I'm not suspicious of that. I mean, I don't think anyone would succeed in that tactic, but like, it's interesting to me that she just was like, oh, if you see Halbrand, you're not to treat with him again. None of that, like, because he's literally the enemy we've been hunting down. I do think a part of that is because she's still processing. But yeah, it's worrying that she didn't even tell Elrond, at the very least, who he was, like someone she does trust. I don't think Galadriel's gonna side with him or anything like that. I'm just like, what? Tell them. They need to know. Because they would, you know, if we were not to treat with him again, if they ever were to run into him, they would be like, oh, that's that mortal king guy that thinks he's king of the Southlands. Oh, I'm not to treat with him. I'm an elf. Fuck you. And then he's Sauron. You know, you can't underestimate him. They need to know so that they don't underestimate him. But I suppose she is worried that they won't. They'll think she's crazy, that she's seeing shadows again where there aren't any. Or does she worry that they did what he said about how, are you going to tell them that you were allied to me? Is she worried they will mistrust her for having been working with him? It's all going to be very interesting going forwards. It was a fantastic reveal. I'm glad Nori went with him. You know, I was sort of expecting she would do, but then when she was like, I've had enough adventures, I was thinking, oh, maybe she truly just wants to be with her family. But I'm glad that those two are off together. I'm now like, I would say I'm 80% sure he is Gandalf. Obviously, him being the other threw me a little bit because there were like 5 wizards, if I wasn't mistaken. One of whom does end up working with Sauron. But it would really explain why Gandalf seems to have such a soft spot for hobbits throughout his interaction with the Bagginses and everything. Like, it would just be it would tie in so nicely to see like why he has this affinity for this group of people that most others either barely even think of or look down on or don't think much of either way. I'm worried about Numenor. Obviously, the king is dead. The Queen Regent has come back, blinded from what started off as a great victory and has turned into pretty much a catastrophe. They lost a lot of people, and she now wants to go and commit more troops to this fight. Now, realistically, something as power hungry as all of this, would it settle for not coming for anybody else? They don't necessarily know Sauron's around, but from what they understand and know of the enemy, Numenor could well be in danger. The vision of the flood, it would terrify people, but I almost feel like they do have a right to know. I'm pretty sure Isildur is dead, but his sister saw the vision of the flood, or maybe she's going to be insane now because the king did say don't look for too long. But she saw the royal secret. Now, it is something that I mean, I don't believe in absolute monarchies. I put that slightly to the side. I don't believe in monarchies full stop. In fantasy shows, monarchies do a bit more. They have a bit more, like, they actually have to, like, help their people and care and fight alongside them. So I like monarchies more in fantasy shows. I throw my modern ideals out the window in that sense. But in this regard, the question of whether or not the Great Flood will be caused by inaction, by hiding from the world, by saying, nope, no elves here, no, we're not going to help you, we're staying to ourselves, or whether it would be caused by the opposite, should really be up for debate and council, and like the people should have a say. At the very least, more than one woman should be making the decision. As much as I do think she's a wonderful ruler, and like she actually, as much as I worried for a while there, but she truly does seem to care for her people. But definitely the king is dead. The Queen Regent has come back from that shining, glorious moment to be like, yeah, half of them are dead and I want more troops. I'm also blinded, which doesn't make her any less capable of a ruler, but you could definitely see people like the man who sided with her to go on the expedition because he wanted to try and exploit the Southlands for stuff if it worked. He is definitely power hungry and going to try and make some kind of play for power. I worry that as much as Elendil sort of said, oh, you know, we need to make sure that the sacrifice is for the right reasons, I'm almost worried that he's going to be like, the right reasons are to never trust the elves or to go against the elves, or I don't know. I just worry that his loss might change him. There's going to be a lot of power struggles there. Dory and her new friend are gonna, I'm sure, like, if they turned up in like in a village someplace of any species, any race, there obviously aren't any half villages, and he is a giant man wearing like a weird little shrub bush coat thing. they're going to raise some eyebrows. They're going to attract attention. If there were those 3 acolytes of Sauron searching for him, I'm sure there are going to be others who are going to be searching for him, both thinking he's Sauron or thinking he's an enemy of Sauron. What I'm most looking forward to is when he potentially teams up with characters we know of. Hopefully in season 2, Nori and Mr. Man are going to end up having to cross paths with other people we've known. Another concern I have is that the surviving Southlanders who believe he is their king and their saviour, they need to know quick that he's not. Yes, he does seem to be doing his own thing. I guess he's going to go off and try and find his orc friends and be like, I'm your leader, bitches. I don't know. But they need to know that he is not someone that they can trust, someone that will lead them against the orcs in the darkness, because he's actually even worse than the foe they were currently facing off with him. I think Bronwyn would make a very good leader, but we will see what happens there. There's just so many things that they really like. I think this is almost a show where I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed it from the first episode, but I would say to people, you have to watch all 8 episodes of the first season to truly get this show, to get what it's doing, where it's going. It is building the blocks for the second season, and that is often, I mean, first seasons are allowed to be like that. I think they did a very good job of introducing us to the characters, to the world as it is now, to the diplomatic relations as they are now, and I'm very stressed. I need to know more about the rings. From what I've gathered from the song at the end, the elves have their rings. At some point, the dwarves are going to make some rings, and then the humans are going to get some rings, and then Sauron's going to get a ring, and then Sauron's going to, and his ring's going to end up in a river. A lot is to come, and I cannot wait personally to see how it unfolds. If you've enjoyed my reactions and if you've been joining me on this journey, thank you so much. A reminder that if you want to go back and watch the unedited version of these reactions, or sponsor a show, or vote on a new show to watch, etc., those can all happen on my Patreon. And thank you so much for watching.